Inner tubes are back. Aero bikes are back in fashion as well, but did they ever go out of fashion? And a rider wins a bike race on a gravel bike 1x13 group set. Yes, that's right. It's your weekly roundup of the most interesting tech news from the world of cycling. Let's dive in. Inner tubes are dead, or so I thought. I'm a big fan of tubeless tyres despite past compatibility issues, which thankfully most have been resolved with the latest tyre and rim standards. Even most of the pro peloton are using tubeless as well, which I thought would never happen. But I know not everyone shares my enthusiasm for tubeless. And the rise of TPU inner tubes like these, much lighter than these old-fashioned things, has given a fresh resurgence to using inner tubes. So for that reason, it's exciting to see Pirelli develop a brand new high-performance clincher tyre designed for using with inner tubes. This is really significant because most new tyres are now made with tubeless in mind. But the downside to a tyre like this is because the construction requires an airtight seal on a rim and a reinforced B technology, they are heavier and not optimized for use with a TPU inner tube. But Pirelli's new tyre is, and that means a big weight saving on the scales. A 28mm wide tyre is 60 grams lighter per tyre, so an easy 120 gram weight saving versus tubeless, and the weight of sealants and the valves as well, so pretty significant. The new tyres are available in 3 widths, 26, 28 and 30, and are priced at €80. And that is a lot of money, but this is Pirelli's best, highest performing, lightest clincher road tyre you can buy right now. The new tyre can only be used on a hooked rim, so not compatible with hookless, which is designed for tubeless with special B technology. Now, will the new tyre sell? That's an interesting question. Pirelli itself reckons half its customers prefer clincher tyres and inner tubes over tubeless. So which camp are you in? Team tubeless or team inner tube? Let me know by dropping a comment down below. So apparently Van Rysel launched a brand new Aero race bike last week, which was news to me. I must have done something to upset Van Rysel because I got no email or press release or anything from them at all. Anyway, you've probably all seen the videos on GCN and K Media about the new bike, so I won't go over the nitty-gritty details on the bike again here. But seeing that bike launch a few days ago, it got me thinking about the future and the sort of current demand for aero race bikes. The new bike is clearly designed for the pro team they sponsor to give the riders a faster bike and all the marginal gains they want and need for winning races. But for consumers, us people, choosing between a regular RCR I rode last year, which launched 2 years ago, and this more aero one is tricky because visually they look the same, just all the tubes have been stretched. The deeper head tube, the down tube, the seat tube and rear stays are giveaways of the new bike over the current one. And it's nothing like as radical as the new Carnago Y1 RS and doesn't appear to be breaking any new ground. The new Ridley Noah is much more dramatic as well. And the aero claims are small. At 45 kilometers per hour with a rider on the bike with no water bottles and cages, the saving over the regular RCR is just 10 watts. So 10 watts, yeah, quite a lot. It's a pair of aero socks, but on the bike, that's not much. They change your position, drop your head, that can just wipe it out straight away. And they also haven't developed any aero water bottles like Cannondale did with the Super 6 Evo, which is a surprise given the low hanging fruit that does represent. So is that aero saving over the regular bike worth it for us regular cyclists expected to part with our money for a bike like this? Well, if you're racing and actually putting a number on your jersey and you want all the marginal gains, then yes, it makes sense. But if you're not racing, but still like riding fast, I don't think it makes sense. The regular, lighter and probably more comfortable bike, the RCR, makes more sense in the real world. And that choice between aero and lightweight is an interesting one in the World Tour peloton as well, because brands that sponsor teams like Specialized, Pirelli and Trek have stuck to one bike that both trying to be aero and lightweight. And Carnago used to as well until they bucked the trend and launched their bonkers Y1 RS. So for a while it looked like we were going away from the idea of a lightweight climbing bike and an aero flat stage bike, and conversion of one bike as the best of both worlds, but maybe we're going back to a split between light and aero and more aero and heavier. So interesting sort of proposition for the pros and the brands, that position they take, that stance they want to embrace, and what it leaves our consumers with in terms of choosing between aero and more aero. Van Rysel also claims the new frame is 7% stiffer around the head tube, which is no surprise given how chunky it is compared to the regular bike. And in terms of pricing, well, the range starts from £5,000 and all the usual models. Good value for money, but maybe not as good as it could be. And now in the UK, recently announced you can buy these bikes from the Sigma Sports store, a very high-end bike shop in London, as well as the usual Decathlon stores. A very smart move by Van Rysel to allow potential customers to buy from a store they're more familiar with and position that bike alongside rivals like Cannondale, Specialized and Pirelli, and not just in a sort of one make store, which is Decathlon. Van Rysel has shared a white paper, which I'll link down below if you want to check out all the nitty gritty aero details for yourself. And do let me know your thoughts on choosing a bike that's aero and lightweight, or more aero and not as lightweight, than where you are on that sort of spectrum of bike choice. Talking of new aero bikes, there's also a brand new time Scylon, which has been officially launched recently. Hopefully I can arrange a test ride on one right here on Just Ride Bikes. But some details about the bike, and as you expect of any new release, it's hailed as the most aero bike the company has ever made. And they're claiming a 100 gram weight saving over the old model, while being 12% more aero and 9% stiffer. And there isn't really all that much detail other than that. But naturally, for a race bike in 2025, it has space for 32mm wide tyres. And one interesting detail is a new seat post design. The cradle mechanism allows for both +10 and -20mm offset, which is quite neat. The dropouts are not UDH compatible, which is perhaps not a surprise. Most road bikes aren't yet, and priced at just over £4,000. It's expensive, yes, but cheaper than an S-Works Tarmac or a Pirelli or a Carnago, and the frame is made in Europe as well, using their own carbon weaving manufacturing process. So an interesting bike, definitely an alternative to more mainstream brands. Looks really good, I like the fact it's made in Europe. Hopefully I can arrange a test ride of one in the near future. Now let's talk about one by, because it's been 10 years since SRAM launched its first one by group set for drop bars. In the years since, the technology has steadily evolved from 11 to 12 and now 13 speed, and it has come to dominate mountain bikes and gravel bikes. But there have been high profile road team failures, and countless debates and arguments have been had on cycling forums about the pros and cons of one by versus two by. So this weekend, just gone, Mads Pedersen, riding for Little Trek, rode to victory in Gent-Wevelgem aboard a Trek Madone SLR with the latest SRAM Explore 1x13 speed group set, a gravel bike group set on a road frame. In fact, he's been riding this setup for the past few weeks in the Spring Classics. Now, cynical types will say SRAM have forced him to ride this group set. Here's a big bag of cash, ride a group set. But do we really think a rider of his profile would bow down to the demands of a sponsor? I'm not so sure. Especially when he's a star rider on the team and the rest of the Little Trek team appear to be using a regular 2x setup. So not all using 1x, just him it appears. I don't know. I'd love to ask him myself why he's using it and why he chose it over 2x. Is it weight, the aerodynamics, efficiency, simplicity, less chance and risk of a drop chain? We can only speculate. So I reckon one of his motives are to try and avoid a drop chain, which are pretty common in the classics. The bike is bouncing around over the cobbles and the chain can come off, even with a front mech, whether you're shifting or not shifting. And it does happen with Shimano bikes, as good and reliable as they are, but it doesn't often get much attention or interest when it happens, but it does happen quite frequently. So that I reckon is one of his motives, as well perhaps a simplicity of shifting when you come into those steep climbs. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on that down below. So for the gearing on his bike, it's a 13-speed 1046 cassette with a massive dinner plate, a 56 tooth chaining on the front. I would love to see the gear chart for that, which the Axis app allows you to use to see how much time you spend in each gear ratio and how much of that range he used. That would be fascinating. I doubt SRAM would release it, but if they do, I'll let you know. So it does appear 1x13 can work in the pro peloton, but does it work in the real world? Well, funny enough, I'll be riding a 3T Strada with the same setup, albeit with a smaller 46 tooth chainring, because it's very hilly where I live and I'm a lot less fit than Mads Pedersen. I'm currently working on a video of my experience riding this bike on a range of routes and chain gangs, and that will be published later this week or maybe next week, hopefully. So yeah, really interesting experience and really interesting to see it being used in the pro peloton. But while I'm working on that video in the background, let me know your thoughts on 1x versus 2x. I know it's a debate that we've spent countless time on. I've done videos on it, and some people are very entrenched in 2x is the best way, but lots of people I know are willing and curious about 1x. So if you're curious about 1x, let me know by dropping a comment down below. And will SRAM see the success of Mads Pedersen and follow up with a 1x13 road bias group set? Or does the Explore work just fine as a road bike setup, although it could be lighter perhaps for a road bike optimized setup? So yeah, very interesting times we live in. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.